We are live with round 2 of Now and Then Wrestling's Jeopardy. We are going to do round 2. We are going to do Final Jeopardy. We are going to conclude this game today. And for Ben's sake, we are hoping that this is not a Will Smith, Chris Rock situation. We are hoping for some self-defense here of some kind. Put a fucking hand up, something, man.
Desperately hoping to put it in fight.
Listen, a wise man once said, "Move your head, like just at least move your head, man. Don't just take him head on like that."
Michael, I see 3 of them out there. Which one do I swing at?
The one in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like Rodney King might have been this game. God bless the departed Rodney King. But we are going to roll with this game. So, a couple of things real quick. Obviously, last week was the first time that we did this game, and we got a lot of positive feedback on this game, so that's a very good thing. However, since it was our first time, we're trying to make some tweaks as we roll along here. One thing is that we will switch because these are not necessarily just questions you're going to get right off the top of your head. We are going to put a 10-second time limit on answers to extend it a little bit so that everybody has a little bit of time to think. And then as far as Final Jeopardy goes, because Final Jeopardy is a little different, right? There's no one person that, like, both people have to answer, pretty much at the same time. We don't have any boards to write down here, everybody. So what we will do is I will have each person, once you have your answer in your head, you have to send it to me by messenger individually. And then that is your answer. Please put in how much you're going to wager, but that's how we'll do Final Jeopardy. So now that we have the rules out of the way, I think we're ready to go.
Here we go. So there is the board. It is up and ready to go.
It's ready to go. And categories are tag teams, dome shows, EC dub, secondary titles, and why the fuck did you do that? All right. So since Joe is, let's just say handsomely in the lead here, can you put the points up too? It's 2,300 to -6. As much as you wish it was 0-0, it is not, my friend.
Oh, wait. It doesn't let me do 2,300. I can only do 22 or 24. So, you know what? He was so dominant, I'll give you the extra point.
Yes, bonus points. Yes, bonus points for sweeping the leg and going for destruction like that. All right. So, Joe, since you are handsomely in the lead, by all means, the board is yours.
Dome shows for 200.
This man beat Hulk Hogan for the WCW World Title on the July 6, 1998 edition of Nitro from the Georgia Dome.
Who is Bill Goldberg?
Correct. For 200 there.
All right.
They'll go dome shows 400.
This dome was host to a Rock versus Steve Austin WrestleMania main event and was demolished in 2013.
What is the Houston Astrodome?
Correct.
Oh, look at that. Oh, I didn't even see that before.
Right, yeah, don't throw those up because those might not be as clearly edited as some. Hey, calm down, Chucky Tip. I told you I tried to bring these questions down so that there weren't so many that were unanswered. But go ahead.
Dome shows 600.
This former WWF star had a singles match with Masahiro Chono at the Tokyo Dome in 2002.
Who is Brock Lesnar?
Incorrect. Ben, you do not have to play, but if you would like to, you have 10 seconds.
WWF star had singles match with Masahiro Chono. God, I don't know, and I don't want to lose points. I can't afford it.
Who is China?
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So that now how do I? Oh wait, how do I? Correct? Okay, there we go. And then escape, and it makes it go away. Got it.
Man,
All right.
I'm scared what some of those answers might look like, man. But go ahead.
But it makes
Back to Joe.
Dome shows 800.
This native Japanese wrestler has main evented the Tokyo Dome a record 11 times.
Who is Tanahashi?
That is correct.
Wow. Great call. All right. There you go.
Dome shows 1,000.
A former Pride fighter that wrestled Keiji Muto in the main event of a Tokyo Dome show in October 1995, setting the all-time pro wrestling gate record in the process. That's 10 seconds. Ben, that's minus 1,000, Ben. Look at you. Are you taking a stab for 1,000 here?
I'm gonna take it, but I lose 1,000 if I am I incorrect?
Correct.
Right?
If you're guessing, yes.
I want to take a guess, but it's not worth 1,000 to take a guess.
Look at Ben playing safe here. Well, I guess that is moving your head, so you took my advice. Who is Takada? Who is Takada?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Guess
and that should be Nobuhiko Takada. That is a misspell. But yes, that's correct. All right. Still Joe's, because Ben is just letting them go by.
I don't know those answers.
Wait a second. Chucky Tip, is it still easy? All right, let's go to the other ones now.
EC Dub for 200.
EC Dub. This man's face was on the Italian flag belonging to the FBI.
I know.
Who's Tommy Rich?
That is correct.
That is absolutely correct.
By the way, if anybody has that flag, please message me. We can do business. Absolutely.
EC Dub 400.
Even before Sabu and Taz, the first ECW Triple Crown winner when he captured the ECW World Title in October 1995.
I feel like I want to try to take a stab at this.
Pass to Ben. Come on, Ben. You can't get control of the board once. This is an ECW question.
No, I know. I think I'm wrong, but I know what I want to guess.
It's only fucking $400. You got no money anyway. It's all credit.
But it wasn't.
Be like every U.S. president ever. Spend. Fucking deficit. Spend.
It wasn't. It couldn't have been Terry. Who is Terry Funk, right?
No. Who is one Michael Whipwreck?
Oh.
I never would have guessed that. God damn. All right. Cannot see. I am fucking awful at this.
EC Dub for 600.
These two veterans under contract to WCW in 1994 worked a tag team main event involving Terry Funk and Sabu.
Who are the Steiner brothers?
Incorrect. Ben. Okay. Ben, come on.
These two veterans were under contract in 1994.
To WCW. You got 5 seconds. You got to say if you're going or not going.
I'm not going. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Who are Bobby Eaton and Arn Anderson? Bobby Eaton and Sabu against Terry Funk and Arn Anderson. Main event ECW Arena Show 1994. When Worlds Collide on the Peacock. Yes.
It is awesome. Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
The secondary titles for 200.
Very interesting. This former WWF Tag Team Champion returned to the ring and won the WCW TV title from Booker T in February 1998.
Oh, man.
Boop, boop.
Man, these are
Ben. Come on, Ben.
It's a guess, but I believe it's Rick Martell.
Absolutely correct, sir. Who is Rick Martell?
All right.
Yes. I would like to point out that both Joe and I are now treating you like you're one of Jerry's kids. Like we're so motivated by your inspirational. Yes, you have the board. Okay, go ahead. The board is yours.
I'm gonna go for 400. There you go.
The
secondary titles.
The first U.S. champion under the WWE banner, beating Chris Benoit in the tournament finals at Vengeance 2003.
Fuck.
Boop, boop. Joe.
First U.S. champion. Who's Eddie Guerrero?
Oh my God, Joe steals it. Wow.
Oh, son of a bitch on the fucking guess. All right.
Oh, Ben.
And that lasted all one fucking question.
One fucking question. Why didn't you pick the fucking 200s? By the way, Tag Teams 200 is still in play. I don't know where it went.
Do Tag Teams 200.
Haku and brother of Rikishi, Tama.
The Islanders. Who are the Islanders?
That is correct.
Tag Teams 400.
The only team to win the AWA, NWA, and WWF Tag Team titles.
Who are the Road Warriors?
Absolutely correct. He should get a bonus $500 for not calling them the Legion of Doom too. But go ahead, Joe. The board is yours.
Tag Team 600.
The tag team name of Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow.
I have no fucking idea. I didn't know at all. You can guess at this one because I can't steal it.
Yeah.
Nothing. Who are the Rhodes Scholars?
Oh, yeah. No, I remember that.
Now, I would also like to point out real quick on a very brief side rant, there are millions with an S of people that thought fucking Damian Sandow was going to be the star of that team when they broke up. How do you feel in 2022? But please go ahead with the continued questions here on Jeopardy.
Tag teams for 800.
Here we go. A short-lived WCW tag team that won the vacant United States tag team titles in February 1990, beating the Freebirds.
Wow.
Won the
1990.
Boop, boop. Ben.
I feel like when you say it, I'm gonna go, God damn it, I knew it, but I don't know.
I don't want the points, but I'll just guess. Who are the Young Pistols? Don't give me the points for it.
No, who are Brian Pillman and Tom Zink?
Oh shit. Okay.
No.
Which was a really underrated tag team, by the way. That was fun.
Tag teams 1,000.
Tag teams 1,000. The tag team partner of Jim Brunzell in the AWA's High Flyers.
Who is Greg Gagne?
That is correct. Oh, Ben.
Why the fuck would you do that for 200?
Yeah! All right. WCW had this horror movie icon get into a verbal debate with Rick Steiner in 1998.
Who is Chucky?
Who is Chucky? Correct.
Why the fuck would you do that for 400?
A wrestling promotion started by Joe Pedicino and a mysterious Nigerian investor that began in the summer of 1991 on ESPN.
What is Global?
That is correct.
Son of a bitch, I could have definitely stolen that one. I watched the shit out of that. That's the first time I ever saw Sean Waltman.
Jerry Lynn.
Yep.
Why the fuck would you do that for 6?
This promoter ran a pay-per-view in June 1991 to a record low of less than 10,000 pay-per-view buys.
Who is Herb Abrams?
That is correct.
Why the fuck would you do that for 8?
This man went on live Memphis television in 1999 and said Jerry Lawler raped a little 13-year-old girl.
Who's Doug Gilbert?
That is correct.
Why the fuck would you do that for 1,000?
I can't possibly win. There's not enough. There's
not enough money in the world. Like, you need to get fucking Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all those motherfuckers on the phone right now, man. You need a bridge loan. All right.
bad.
This short-lived nationally syndicated company aired 3 weeks of television in 2000 before running out of money and featured Ted DiBiase as a commissioner.
I had no idea such a thing existed.
What is XPW or is that
No, incorrect. No chance at a steal here, Ben?
WXO?
Yeah, what is WXO? Which, by the way, who is in that? It's not Nick Gage. God damn. There's a deathmatch wrestler in that I'm blanking on. And it's very well known that's in that promotion. That promotion has a wacky ass roster in 2000. It's crazy.
I'll have to look that up.
With Lauren Bobert's estranged fathers, Stan Lane, on commentary with Chris Cruz. Yes.
All right, Joe, the board is still yours.
Secondary titles for 6.
Rob Van Dam beat this man to kick off the longest running ECW TV title reign in history.
Who is Bam Bam Bigelow?
That is correct.
I knew that.
Secondary titles for 800.
The first person to win the WCW United States title and WWF Intercontinental title.
I can guess at this point. Who's Chris Jericho?
No.
Oh, okay.
Ben.
That would have been my guess, so I'm not going to guess.
Who is one Richard Rude?
Oh, yeah. Secondary titles 1,000.
The last ever WCW United States Tag Team Champions.
Who's the Midnight Express? I don't care.
Incorrect. Any guess, Ben? Ben, you don't want to guess. Trust me.
I don't want to guess?
No.
Okay, I don't want to guess.
This is a historical fucking footnote because
Whoa!
listen. This tag team makes no sense on paper. They announced they were getting rid of the United States tag titles in 3 weeks, and the Freebirds dropped them to Dick Slater and the Barbarian at a house show for no fucking reason whatsoever. But go ahead.
EC Dub for 800.
The tag team name of John Cronus and New Jack.
Oh, wow. This is really digging deep. I have no idea.
The Gangsta Eliminators.
So close. So close, but our judges say no.
I could steal this. I believe it's Gangstanators.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hero.
Yes.
Climbed out of the hole.
Oh my God. How do you do? Well,
bitches.
on ECW's final pay-per-view, Missy Hyatt asked this wrestler, "Did I fuck you?"
Oh, I want to guess, but I also don't want to finish in the negative.
You're gonna have to anyway because you already picked the category, so you're on the hook regardless.
Well, I can just let the time run out and not lose.
No, you picked it. You have a turn. No one asked to steal. You have to go.
Yeah, but I can let the time run out. Right?
Nope. That ain't the way Jeopardy goes, dude. You're on the hook.
Wait, Joe's done it multiple times, right?
Then you should have been deducting his score too.
Oh,
No.
shit.
But if you have not, we will. Yeah, if you have not, we will not change the scoring purposes of this show.
Yeah, I mean,
Right. Way to go, Ben.
It's no longer a contestant, and I can just run the show from behind the scenes.
If you want to, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. If you want to leave it like that, that's fine. Joe, did you want to try to steal?
I want to guess once Joe takes a shot.
Okay, go ahead. Joe, do you want to guess?
Who's Rhino?
No, incorrect.
I'm going to guess Steve Carino.
They're in the skit. No,
Yeah.
but who is Jack Victory?
I knew it was close.
Listen,
All
before we get to Final Jeopardy real quick, we might have to look for that clip and play it because Jack Victory reminding 2001 Missy Hyatt of her managing him and John Tatum and her looking at him blankly and going, "Did I fuck you?" is one of the best moments of ECW TV. And it's ECW in their final pay-per-view too saying, "We don't give a fuck. We're out of money. We're going out in a blaze of glory." It was fantastic.
What was the guy's name again? Fuck, who am I talking about? Jack Victory.
Yes, who is Jack Victory?
No, it's not. Nevertheless. All right, Joe. There you go. You're way ahead. At least, even if let's just say generously, because I didn't deduct you points, took away 2,000 points, you'd still be at 4,400 points. And so you've kicked my ass efficiently. But there is still Final Jeopardy, and we got one question we need to answer. So I will risk the $0 that I have available, and let's do this Final Jeopardy thing so we can move on and talk about some other shit.
All right. Remember, message me your answers with your dollar amount. Ben, you have nothing to bet. What the fuck? What? You know what, Ben? Just multiply it by 1 billion. It doesn't matter. It still comes out to the same number. It's fucked up. But yeah, Joe, tell me because we have to. This is final score purposes. This is for historical purposes too. We have to give other players something to aspire to. So by all means. But
you have 4,400 right
now. Okay. We will play with this question. And remember, text it to me when you know the answer. Don't fuck around with your phone and try to look it up. I'm looking at you, Ben, just to go out on a high note. He's like, you know what? It's not going to affect the game.
Phone up here.
All right. This man main evented WrestleMania and the Tokyo Dome in the same month. Starting now.
Green went off.
Boom, boom. That was horrible.
Oh, I guess we put it in the group chat so I know his answer.
I don't have his text number, so.
Okay, Ben. Okay, we will go over the answers. Ben is who is Brock Lesnar. That is incorrect. You had 0 to risk. Hey, you went out at even, so it's not as bad as it looks.
It's the negative. I'll take that.
Joe, what did you bet?
$1.
Joe bet $1, but Joe's absolutely correct. April 1990, Hulk Hogan wrestles Ultimate Warrior at Sky Dome, August 1st, and then later on that month, he wrestles Stan Hansen in the main event of a Tokyo Dome show with All Japan, New Japan, and WWF.
That's crazy to even think about.
Yeah. That's why when people say shit about like Hulk Hogan and why did he do this and why did he do that? Because he wanted to make all the fucking money and he did. That's why. So
yeah, because he wanted to make all the money and he did. Yes. All right. Well, now we are back to our regularly scheduled Now and Then Wrestling podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Where we like to talk about the now of professional wrestling as well as the then of professional wrestling. And this week we have the retro review, which we do have some live watchers that are an increased number. So welcome to those of you that are watching along. We thank you very much. If you're not familiar with the normal show, we don't always open with Jeopardy. Sometimes we open with where we talk about the now of professional wrestling, some of the news that's going on now. And then we have a thing we call the retro review, where we pick out a show or a series of matches where we review them and talk about some of the guys that were involved in some of the matches and whatnot. And then we have some shenanigans also at the end. We also have a new segment this week that we are going to debut. Michael V, I want to let you talk about this one and introduce this.
Yeah, I can't do the title properly, so we're going to play an intro when it's time to run this, which will run after this for the title. But this is basically where we're going to look at something that was crazy that was said sometime. It could be something from the past since we do retro on this show, but from the future, obviously, it could be interviews, it could be tweets, it could be whatever, just something that somebody said that just kind of makes you go, what the fuck? So we're gonna do that. We're actually, let's go ahead and get that started. We'll get the title.
Because what is happening these days is there are so many wrestling podcasts that are interviewing professional wrestlers that are active professional wrestlers that they get asked a million different questions in a million different situations. And sometimes they just say shit that is wild. Like a couple of weeks ago, or was it last week, we were talking about fucking Mikey Speedball, whatever his name is, saying that the Impact X Division is the biggest championship in all of professional wrestling. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about, right? Well, I ran across this story, and it deserves it. So we're gonna play this little clip that describes what this segment is all about. Here you go.
Motherfucker, say what?
Yes.
Welcome
Motherfucker, say what? Yes,
Yeah.
this is
Welcome
it.
to the very first episode of Motherfucker Say What?
That's right.
Motherfucker, say what?
There we go.
All right. So in the spirit of that, here we go. Thunder Rosa on a podcast compares her rivalry with Brit Breaker to The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't care what context this is in. This is bizarre. And she tries to go on to explain later. Or in it, she says, every match that we had, it escalated to the next level. It's like The Rock and Stone Cold, something similar, or Trish Stratus and Lana. Something of that sort. Something that is never going to end. Our matches were definitely more physical in terms of female wrestling. We pushed a lot of boundaries that I don't think people were used to seeing women in mainstream media. I probably watched it 10 times, and I cannot tell you the amount of pain that everyone that was part of that match went through. From the wrestlers, I don't care. What are you talking about? It had the same level as The Rock and Stone Cold?
Motherfucker, say what?
I mean, is there anything more to even discuss there? Like, giving it anything more than just playing the clip for it seems like giving this way too much time.
Before piling on, there are some things that I would like to say. Let me get a few things out the way. Number one, Thunder Rosa was living in Oakland, when I was living in Oakland. So shout out Thunder Rosa. We have several mutual friends, people I respect, and people whose opinion I trust, and they have said nothing but wonderful things about her. Also, her name, Thunder Rosa, comes from a place that she worked in the Bay called Thunder Road, which is a rehab facility that I know multiple people that went through that program. So her name is an homage to that, and I got a lot of respect for her in that regard. Now, all conflicts being listed and all that aside, it's the names. I get what she's saying in theory. Like, listen, right. You and I were just talking before the show. There was a time that I was discussing to you before the show where Rock and Stone Cold were wrestling, and you were like, oh, yeah, it was this time. And I'm like, no, it was this time in 97 when it wasn't even a big fucking deal, and it was for the IC title, okay? And you could tell that it was like, you watch it and you're like, fuck, man, these guys are really good. And they're not even really drawing any money yet. It's like I said, this is a first-time IC title feud. It's not a big deal. So, but you can tell it's really good. Now, if she thinks that, if that's what she's saying, that it's kind of, been building into this bigger thing, from a match quality standpoint, I get it. But listen, all positive things I can say about her aside, this is a general blanket rule for anybody in the business right now whatsoever on any level. Don't fucking compare yourself to The Rock and Steve Austin. Just don't. There's no way that you really look good like coming out of that. Maybe only from like a work rate perspective or something like that. But you got to be real specific about that shit. But anything else, otherwise, you're going to get laughed out of the fucking room. That's just the way it is.
Mention Trish and Lita all you want. That's fine. And that's probably where she should have left it. But yeah, I think she overstepped a little bit bringing up Rock and Stone Cold. Like that's another level. That's literally one of the top 5 feuds in the history of professional wrestling. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, if there's somebody who is like trying to reach that level, listen, it's not. We'll see what happens. We don't know what the future is going to hold. But right now, because of the platform, WWE kind of holds that thing for women's wrestling. I mean, they are kind of the standard bearer right now. And like Ronda Rousey is a much bigger deal than Thunder Rosa. That's just the way that it is. So you should be aspiring to kind of be her before you're talking about Rock and Steve Austin and all that other shit, because you got to get people into it like on that level. And you know, she's a mainstream star, Rousey. I get it's not the same thing, but it's like, I mean, these are the more famous, iconic, you know, again, not Rock and Stone Cold, but closer to that than when Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker are doing on AEW. Like, that's just, it's a wild fucking comparison. Definitely.
Okay, so we want to talk some AEW stuff.
Wait, Joe can go too, by all means.
Joe, do you have any thoughts when it comes to this absurd statement from Thunder Rosa?
What the fuck say what?
Oh, I think he's frozen.
Oh shit.
Joe is having technical difficulties tonight.
Joe might have said that might have been Joe speaking, to saying that.
Yeah,
that might have been.
He had a computer issue, so he was on his phone. So he's been having some connectivity issues. So at least we got through Jeopardy.
But Joe's thoughts were motherfuckers say what. So yeah.
Which, by the way, we forgot to talk about this, and we lost a bunch of people. Jeopardy was a smashing success. Well, we can just kind of break the fourth wall while we're talking here live, as far as live numbers were concerned. And so, unfortunately, we won't be able to say this with all of them in the room. But if anybody does want to challenge Joe, we are putting it out there. Any listener that feels like they can challenge Joe to a game of Now and Then Wrestling Jeopardy, please message us at our Facebook page, the Now and Then Wrestling Facebook page, and Ike and I will screen you and make sure that you're good enough to stand the test. But we do have one request, that you do have some sort of social media following and that you help us in promoting your appearance on the show as well. So with that said, I don't know if Joe will be back or not. If he's not, that's okay. We'll move ahead without him, because I want to talk about AEW. We got a lot of AEW to talk about. And
wait, real quick on the Jeopardy thing too. Yeah. I do want to say that we are in business right now with Wrestling Mecca. They are streaming us live. So, you know, by all means, if you're in Wrestling Mecca and you're seeing us and you think, you know, trivia is up your alley, you kind of see what Joe's able to do and what his skill level is. We are taking 2 players at a time, a traditional 3-player Jeopardy format. So Ben can produce and I can host, and things can run a lot more smoothly. So that's kind of the plan there. But yeah, we're really happy to be in a partnership with Wrestling Mecca. Wrestling Mecca is great. They post a lot of videos about the now and then too. You know, they're putting up videos of 1985 Jim Crockett wrestling on TBS, which is near and dear to my heart. I almost shed a tear when I come across some of those videos. It just makes me think of being 6 years old all over again. It's fantastic. And, you know, the guy who runs Wrestling Mecca, Chucky Tip, longtime friend, known this man for 22 years, like a brother to me. He worked at Pro Wrestling Iron with me too. He did our sound and our music and all that kind of stuff. So he was a valuable asset in that thing. A one-time performer, which will be a show we have to get him on for to tell that story.
Maybe when we have a week where there's an open seat where Joe can't is busy that week or something, maybe Chucky can sit in with us and talk a little wrestling as well.
Yeah, motherfucker, you could sit in. You said all that shit was easy. You were talking shit a second ago, so you could definitely come on the show and put your knowledge to the test. And I will say, interesting tidbit that I did pass along to Ben, Chucky Tip, nephew of town legend Dave Stewart of the Oakland A's, former world champion, 4-time 20-game winner in a row, ace of the Oakland A's rotation in the last fucking glory year period that we had 30 fucking years ago, A's fans. But yes, town legend Dave Stewart, his nephew. Yes, it's fucking brutal.
Yes, thank you so much, Chucky. We appreciate it. Joe, we're back. Give us a testing because we haven't heard you talk.
Testing. How's that?
Oh yeah, audio's good. Audio's good.
All right,
Good
cool.
enough.
So
Okay.
yeah, we're good. All right, so we're gonna talk a little AEW, and now we're gonna kind of do this on the fly. We've got some business aspect of AEW to talk about, and we've also got the review of the Owen Hart tournament matches so far. There were 3 this week that we can review. Do we want to do the match review first, or do we want to talk business first?
Let's do the matches.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the Owen Hart matches that happened just a night ago on AEW Dynamite on TBS. The first match of the tournament for the men's side was Adam Cole versus Dax Harwood of FTR. And I can't think of 2 people I want to watch wrestle less. I don't really mind Dax Harwood, but every time I watch Adam Cole, it reaffirms that I do not understand why people like Adam Cole. Why is that guy?
He has a catchphrase. That's about it.
I don't get it. I don't understand it whatsoever. And the only thing I'm going to say about this is that Adam Cole and Britt Baker were on Bar Rescue, the new episode of Bar Rescue this week. And if you've never seen it, it's great. John Taffer is awesome. John Taffer used the 2 of them as his like decoys that he would send into the shitty bar to like order drinks and order food and see how the service is and whatnot. And I thought it was funny because they're on TV every week. So you're sending celebrities in to be like mystery diners. Nobody in the bar knew who they were. Nobody. None. There wasn't like, oh, you guys are on. It wasn't been on TV. No. And then John Taffer walks in that bitch, and everybody in the bar knew who that motherfucker was. So that tells you all you need to know about Adam Cole, or at least wrestling, and where it stands.
I didn't think that. I thought the match was okay. It wasn't. I mean, it was. I didn't think it was great or anything. I'm not as down on Adam Cole as you are. Your hate for Adam Cole is very thick. But I mean, he connects with the crowd. He's not really my thing. But I mean, it was okay. It wasn't bad. I mean, I think even by their standards and what they look for and what they like, it wasn't blow away or anything like that. Although Meltzer probably did give it 5.5 stars. So who knows?
I mean, it was a fine professional wrestling match between 2 guys who are.
It was solid. Yeah, it was solid.
It was fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Joe, of course, technical difficulties.
That's fine.
Up here,
Yeah.
We move along to what was my favorite match of the 3, which was the women's match.
No, sorry.
Multiple reasons. Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter. I thought, first of all, I'm in love with Toni Storm. I fully admit it. I am enamored with her. I don't know what it is. She puts a trance on. But that said, the wrestling itself, I thought was far better than the Dax Harwood Adam Cole match. I thought it was more hard hitting. I thought it was more Japanese Joshi style because both of them have trained over there. So it was a lot more hold for hold. Yes, it is wrestling Mecca. It is the booty 100% all day, every day. I am a huge Toni Storm. Huge. But that said, I'm a huch fan of her wrestling.
This segment is brought to you by Pornhub. Go ahead. Yes.
But that said, like, her wrestling is really good too. She is a really good female professional wrestler. Her shit looks good. Her strikes look good. Like, I don't understand. I mean, she quit WWE, right? So it wasn't like they didn't want her. She quit because she was tired of working that schedule. And so I totally get it. And it is WWE's loss because she's super fucking talented. You could put her in the ring with almost anybody and she could have a good match.
I'll say this about Toni Storm. This is what I believe about Toni Storm. I think there's people in wrestling that get it and people that don't. She, unfortunately, is one of the people that does not. She watches Japanese wrestling, but she didn't get it. And that's what happens with a lot of the indie guys, too, that watch Japanese wrestling, and they don't get it either. It's not the moves. Stop with the fucking moves. It's the charisma and personality that comes along with the moves. That's what, and this will be, way too in the weeds for people's heads, but this is exactly like, if you follow Joshi wrestling, then you understand what I'm going to say. But there's a difference between Aja Kong and fucking Kyoko Inoue. And the difference isn't that Aja Kong's work is a lot better. It's that she has the presence and the charisma and the personality. It's not, and Kyoko Inoue is like a great hand. And that's what I see in Toni Storm, is that in this match, what they did looked good, but the crowd's into it less than any of these tournament matches, and you're doing nothing to bring them in. They do big moves to bring them in, but the big moves aren't really what gets the crowd into the match. It's the guys with the personalities that have the big moves that really get them into the match. And they don't slow down for like crowd interaction, to play to the crowd, to get somebody in like a clear good versus evil, bad versus good storyline. Like, it's people going out there and doing well executed moves. And to me, it's like, between WWE and AEW, almost everybody can do that, man. Almost everybody can do well executed moves. Like, you got to get it. You got to really get that fucking personality side of things. And I think to them, that's why, to WWE, that's why we can let her go, because Charlotte gets that. Like, Becky gets that. Sasha Banks gets that. Even Bayley, to a degree, gets that. You can say whatever you want about them as workers versus her, but they've, tried to get over his personalities and succeeded. Like, that's where she needs to get it and take her next step as work, because this might have been it probably was the most technically sound match of all three tournament matches, but it's the least over.
Yeah, the crowd, you're right. You are 100% right, because that's a note that I put in my head that I'm glad you brought up, was that for as much as I enjoyed it, the crowd did not. The crowd, very little of the crowd that was into what they were doing. So, and as I was watching it, it was again reaffirming to me the wrestling today's wrestling, and what is being presented and what is over with the majority of wrestling fans is not what is over with me. Right? I am just not.
I know that for myself too. Yeah.
I'm not the market for them, but I still could stand on the outside and watch it and appreciate it and all that. But like Adam, I was much more entertained by the match that the crowd wasn't entertained by, and they were hot as fuck for Adam Cole and Dax Harwood.
Let's save that part of the conversation for the AEW business stuff, because I have some thoughts that tie in with what you're saying too. Because there's a very there will be a semi rant on that subject, because people have angered me over the past week. Frustrated. How about that?
Excellent. That leads us to the main event of the show, which was the third of the matches, which was Jeff Hardy and Darby Allin. And I said this in our private chat, and I'll say it here. I firmly believe that Darby Allin is going to either seriously injure himself or kill himself performing a wrestling stunt.
I don't think you'll ever hear me say this about another human being, but I almost sincerely hope that Darby Allin has some sort of heroin or morphine addiction, something that is helping kill the pain that this man has put his body through, because he does the craziest, most insane shit. I'll say this, for this match and kind of the expectation that people had going into it, they delivered, man. They delivered about as much as you could in this situation. Nobody left.
If they had to go out and wrestle a regular match, it would have been a fucking pile of dog shit. And they knew that. And I'll give them credit. They knew that. So they threw at the last minute, threw the anything goes ladder match fucking stipulations at it, because they knew that that's what people wanted to see from those two guys.
Yeah, I think the match could have been good if it was a singles match, but it would have been brought down by the fact that it's not what people wanted to see. It's like when Jeff Hardy wrestled Matt Hardy and it like never worked, because it was like, yes, this is a well-executed wrestling match, but we just don't want to fucking see these two wrestle each other, so we're going to bring it down. Yeah. So, I mean, this was just, but they delivered, they did more than you would expect for TBS.
I agree. Yes. And I will say this. I disagree with the decision on who they put over in that match. I think it would have been much bigger and better for Darby Allin to have won that match than for Jeff Hardy to have won. I would have.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm gonna say this right now. I 100% disagree. If they have that match 3 times, beat them all 3 fucking times. Stop building these guys up. That's not what you do. The playbook is there. History tells us Jeff Hardy wins, Hulk Hogan wins. That's how you build your fucking business, is when you bring legit stars in and make them stars, not bring them down to everybody else's level. The building process can take place over time, but I'm glad you brought that up, because let's talk about this right now too. They need to call an emergency meeting right now, get all hands on deck, everybody on the phone. This William Regal, Danielson, Moxley thing, break that the fuck up tomorrow. That thing is no good. Everybody's on each other's level. Nobody's a fucking star. When you have stables, there's a reason why one guy is always the guy, right? When you have guys that are on equal level, they like bring each other down. And that's kind of my problem with AEW right now, where I think that they're missing. And like you and I have talked about this, where they did get that extra bump when they brought in Punk and Danielson. Like Punk and Danielson as a match should have been done already on pay-per-view. That match should have already happened. It's the 2 biggest stars you have. Stop slow playing. This is what ECW and Paul Heyman did. They slow played matches to death until they never fucking happened and took place, and you fuck yourself out of the money that's already there. Keep your stars. You can bring young guys in as you go along, but I think the internet, like as a whole, thinks we got to build these young guys. These young guys got to get wins. In time, make that the case. But right now, when you have stars, make your stars fucking stars. I got no problem with Hardy going over. He's still a name and a star. In 2 or 3 years, he's not going to mean shit. He'll mean even less. Hopefully, Darby Allin can mean more by then, but it does not need to happen now. Make your stars stars. That's what I'm saying with Danielson. Why are Danielson like Daniel Bryan, right? WWF. Yes. Chance. Huge star. John Moxley, part of the Shield, one of the most over acts of the past decade in the WWE. Why are these guys not huge stars for AEW? They're subtracting from each other just being together, because nobody's above the other person. Like, these guys should be separate entities on their own. That's my issue with them, is that they've brought these guys in, and instead of keeping that audience, they're still doing okay. Like, as a business, they are. But keeping that audience that was curious to check them out when Punk and Danielson came in, they're not there anymore. And that's from not booking your stars like stars. Your stars should be stars. Stop slow playing everything.
With that said, then, by that logic, you put the belt on CM Punk at this pay-per-view, right?
Yes.
I would.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Joe, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, pull the trigger. I mean, it's like Mike said, you can't slow play everything. There's a time and a place and a cool thing about long-term storytelling and long-term booking, but you have to sprinkle that in with like payoffs here or there, and like making things exciting and keeping it unexpected. And I think he has to win. I mean, great. Adam Page, he had a great story, and they did a long-term thing with him and Kenny Omega, but he's not the guy that's going to attract people. Like, they need somebody. You have to make one of these guys the champion. Neither's Kenny Omega. I mean, he was the guy, but he's still like the internet guy. He's like the hardcore fan guy. You know, you need to Punk or Danielson. I mean, Danielson, like Cornette, I think, said on his podcast that Danielson being in the group. And I like the idea of the group, Ben. You and I both do, the Blackpool Combat Club, because I'm like Regal and Moxley and all those guys. But he did take away, like, Danielson was one of their best heels, like, other than MJF when he was doing that run up to that point. And, like, now you just kind of stuck him in a group, and he's just a cog in a wheel instead of being one of your main guys.
It did. What they hoped it was going to do was elevate both guys to bigger stars, and what it ended up doing was lowering them both.
You just made them a trio. Like they're just going to be like, well, they're trios champions if you create that title. Like, okay, like so what?
You should have done much more with Bryan Danielson. If that's yeah. It just feels like they have botched that, and you're right, because there is some stuff on the undercard that Tony Khan is doing and writing that I think is really good. I think the stuff with MJF and Wardlow has been fantastically written, and I also want to commend the stuff with Danhausen and Hook.
Yeah.
I think it's been wonderfully played, and the pop that they got when they shook hands, that's real reaction. That's the crowd telling you, yes, we're getting what we want. And that's kind of what you're talking about. It's you got to give them more of that, more of this is what we want, give it to us, instead of teasing us with what we want. Yeah.
Yeah, like overall, I've supported and defended Tony Khan as a booker more than probably anybody, especially on this podcast, because overall as a business, like we micromanage booking because it's fun. Like that's why, like, because everybody thinks they can do it, even though everybody can't, guys. I'm sorry. And believe me, it is a very hard fucking thing to do. And some of you, like, we'll talk about experiences in booking maybe at one point on this show in the future, because the number one thing you really have to be more than anything that nobody understands as a booker is a excellent fucking salesman and communicator. Because if you can't get people to buy into your ideas and get them to see exactly what is in your head to the very fucking detail, then it doesn't fucking come out that way. And you have to be able to collaborate with them on that level. So that's all a side thing. But as a group with this group, like, I think we all love them on paper because we're like, God damn, that's so badass. Because like all three of those guys together sounds badass, but nobody is there that's like, I got to see this guy, or that's hot. And even the guys that, you know, like Punk and Danielson, they were those guys a little while ago. Now that audience has drifted away with Hangman Page as your fucking champion. Like everyone shits on WCW for stupid things and Bischoff for stupid things, but Hogan Flair right away was the correct match to make. Like that's how and they made money with it. They did their pay-per-view records that way. And if AEW did that as a pay-per-view, that would be their pay-per-view record as well if they had done it right away. Just Punk and Danielson. These are the two biggest stars. You don't need much of a fucking storyline. All you need is two guys saying promos saying, I'm the best in the world. I'm the one who fucking set WWE on fire. No, fuck you. I'm the one that did. And people are going to fucking watch it. But now you've slow played them down to a level that everybody else is. And it's not a knock on those guys. It's just where they are. And you've kind of already missed the boat.
Can you rekindle that flame, though? If Punk wins the belt here and you have Danielson come out at the next TV or even after that match, and you go right into what you just described, they could probably still hit a big number on that pay-per-view if they wanted. But they're running out of time before that becomes irrelevant. But there is still a window where they could build that match where it could mean something, and they could hit a big pay-per-view. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, they could get some of it back, but I don't think it'll be what it was. Not without a big angle. I mean, I think it could be a big angle behind it, you know. I mean, to be honest with you, I think at some point there's good money in a Punk heel turn. I mean, because he can do if he does a total believable thing of, haha, I fooled you, fuck you, I didn't miss you, I don't give a shit about you, I never have, I've said it for fucking years, you fucking dork-ass wrestling fans. Like, he can do that and get some heat. And there are guys who can kind of, you know, fulfill that babyface role to take them on. So I think they need something like that. Like, I don't, you know, just a straight wrestling match at this point. They need a hook.
Yeah, there's nobody that hates CM Punk more than me. But as a performer, it's hard to deny. And that role right there, what you just described, he would be fantastic at.
Oh, yeah.
This version of him would be, he's so good now. Cerebrally, he's as good as he's ever been, even if he physically may not be. And so, yeah, I agree with you. For as good as Tony Khan has done booking the undercard, he has flopped with Danielson and Punk. There's no other way to describe it. He flopped. It was a flop.
I would call it a miss more than a flop right now because it's not over. They do still have some time, and he hasn't I mean, there's been good TV that we've gotten out of it. You know, the MJF and Punk stuff was, I mean, that was really good. I mean, we talked about that. You were very high on that as well. So we got good TV. It's just it's a misfire. Like, start bringing these guys up, and then you can bring the younger guys up to their level. You know, you can mix them in, and you don't have to beat Darby Allin last night. He got beat, but I don't think anybody gives a fuck. Like, Darby Allin got put over just by doing what he did and all that shit going on social media. Like, that's going to be what's the talk of that match? Jeff Hardy won, man. Fuck. No, the talk of that match is, did you see fucking Darby Allin almost kill himself on AEW last night? Like, you can get over and still lose a wrestling match.
That's true. That's very true. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the business side of AEW real quick. This is a story that we've been sitting on for a couple of weeks because we like to talk about the way network executives look at AEW, right? And we've kind of speculated and wondered, or look at wrestling in general. And Eric Bischoff had a very unique guest on his podcast a couple of weeks ago, a guy that works for Universal Studios as the business affairs manager, a guy by the name of, I believe it's Mick or Mike Pandit. He was on the show, and he has a unique background because he also was an independent wrestler and worked with did some work with WWE, I believe, as well. He's got a unique perspective of the understanding of wrestling and what it is and the business of it. But he also is in the network executive meetings where they're talking about what is cool and what they're interested in and what they want to put on their television. So I when I saw this, I was like, I'm totally intrigued to see what he has to say about AEW's business. And he says, well, I have a unique background. I've been in the wrestling business as an independent wrestler for 14 years. And during that time, I've been able to do some consulting and evaluation work for WWE. Aside from that, I've been an attorney in New York. And right now I work in business affairs at NBC Universal. For those of you who don't know what that means, it means I'm a really small part of a very smart, experienced, dedicated group of executives who work to make deals with actors, directors, authors, and streaming companies. So this guy's as plugged in could be. Like, he's in big time meetings where they're talking about some real shit.
High level shit.
Yeah. And he said, Eric Bischoff talked about All Elite Wrestling's failure to grow an audience, talking about their viewership having flatlined at 1 million a week. Fast forward to this week's episode, and Mike Pandit described why AEW benefits from having that viewership every week, noting it's positive for potential streaming platform deals. Quote, I think it's a huge advantage for them, Pandit said. This is not revealing anything internal, but NBCU executives have been very clear with how pleased they are with WWE's drive of subscribers to the Peacock platform, which we've spoken about, and this just reaffirms exactly what you were talking about, Michael B., is that it has been a huge payoff for both sides in that deal. The WWE and NBC are very happy with how they're doing. Part of the advantage for WWE is that there are new events each month. Yes, but then 2, arguably 3-4 times a year, they have these big events. Your WrestleManias, the upcoming Super Show in the UK, the Saudi events, that drive consumers who might not have been subscribed to say, I have to watch this. They're loyal. They want to see new content. Is a baseline of 1 million viewers something Tony can sell as an advantage for him? Yes. The question is, what is the price he's going to get for that? Now, as we see more consolidation in the industry and their partnership primarily with Warner Media that's being run by Discovery executive, not Warner executives, for all intents and purposes, from what we've seen, and I don't know anyone in that organization, but they're going to run a much leaner and meaner business than Warner had planned on running. Now, does that mean AEW is going to get the kind of live rights media fees that they would have gotten a couple of years ago? I don't know the answer to that, but I think the advantage of AEW is that even at an increase to what they're currently getting paid, which is about 40 to 45 million a year, it's still probably cheaper than scripted programs. So there's a lot to take in there, Mike, and I know you shit better than anyone I know. So I want you to take all that in, all the things that you know about executive thought processes, and now getting a sprinkle of this guy kind of reaffirming what you've been saying all along. What are the things that stuck out to you about what this guy was talking about?
I think first and foremost, just that, and we had kind of talked about this too, just with the Discovery merger and all that stuff. AEW is not really in trouble. I mean, as far as what their future is going to be with Discovery, I mean, we don't really know that for sure, and what TV rights and broadcasting rights look like. But wrestling in 2022 is in a really good fucking place, and especially AEW. Like, there's so many fucking streaming and television platforms. Like, with what AEW's done with a solid base of like 1 million TV viewers, and what they rank in demos, which is what advertisers really care about. People like the raw total number is like a USA thing. Them being the most watched cable channel is important to them. They place a value on that. But what advertisers really care about, the ones that are paying the money and the dollars, they care about demos. So AEW being where they are in demo ratings, they're going to be okay no matter what. And when you're looking at what they're, 40 to 45 million, like WWE is not paying, doing like 10 times their ratings. So why are they getting 10 times their broadcasting rights? There's certain things like brand name and visibility and things like that you're going to be paying with that comes along with that. But I think that other cable channels or streaming services are going to think to themselves, well, I mean, they don't have as long-standing a thing or whatever, but look at these demos, look at these ratings, look at the consistent base they bring. They're probably worth more than a very small fraction of what WWE is getting. So it's what I've been saying. I think they're likely to get some kind of rights increase either from Discovery or from somewhere else. Like, it's not our thing. Like, I don't have a horse in this race to come on here and say these things, but like the people that shit on AEW's business, I just don't fucking get it, man. Like, as a number 2 goes, there's been nothing like it since fucking 1998. Like, in 24 years, like, as far as being a competent and successful number 2. So when you hear like a exec kind of back this up, this is what he's saying. Like, you cannot, and if you don't like it, just don't watch on it. Don't watch it. You don't have to shit on it though. Like, as a business, they've overall been fairly fucking successful. And wait till that video game launches too, because that's another. They're getting into all these things. Like, they're just figuring out their rights. Wait until they get to rebroadcast rights too. Like WWE has with Hulu, which is a deal that's going to explode for them this year. And that's the thing too that people don't realize too, is that because WWE is the market, they set the market. And now they set a market with pro wrestling at a high dollar value, which also trickles down to AEW.
Yeah, rising tide raises all boats.
Yes.
He went on to talk about the potential for a streaming deal. And he explained why their best spot might be HBO Max, which is exactly what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. And he says, I don't know Nick Khan, but he was making this point repeatedly, that we were seeing what they call peak subscription or subscription fatigue when it comes to streaming service. 5 years ago, when there was Netflix and WWE Network, it was great. You pay $10, you get all the wrestling in the world. Now, HBO Max is $15, Disney Plus is $10, Netflix is $17, Paramount is $10. There are many other products, even outside of entertainment consumption, that are subscription-based. You're getting to a point to where justifying paying $10 a month just for wrestling content is going to be very difficult for all but the most hardcore consumers. Somebody who's probably watching wrestling 1 out of every 3 pay-per-views probably wouldn't. AEW's advantage is that they have on average 1 million linear cable viewers week to week. Most of those people probably have access to HBO Max. So I would imagine it's more valuable for HBO Max to have that content on HBO Max so that they can grow their subscription base and retain it. Of those 1 million AEW fans, let's say half of them subscribe to HBO Max. That's a solid $400,000 fans and subscribers who are going to drop off at a lower rate than your average subscriber. So it makes sense, just like that Peacock and WWE, HBO Max and AEW are going to have, it seems to make sense that they would have a very similar type relationship. Joe, I know you're just audio only, but What do you make of that part of it? Where when you look at what money is being spent on entertainment these days, it just makes more sense to buddy up, doesn't it?
It's live. I mean, live content right now is at a premium. I mean, there's USFL on network TV on the weekends right now, like an alternate football. That's how desperate they are just to put live shit on TV. Like that got a contract on a network. Like to attach it to a streaming service is still valuable. It's proven valuable as an IP, and it has enough of a hardcore fan base, and that's stuff that they look for. So yeah, I think it makes all the sense in the world for it to eventually be attached to something. To have something on their own. Yeah, no, probably not going to happen. But the more they bring to the table for somewhere like an HBO Max or whatever, the better for them. And that's what they need. They need that, like as we've said, week in and week out, that guaranteed money. You get that guaranteed money, and you could settle in, and then you know kind of what your budget is and where you could spend stuff on, and there you go. Yeah, I think that go ahead.
Yeah, what I found fascinating, Michael, go ahead. Because my thought will finish.
Yeah, I just think, one thing to keep in mind with AEW too is that they have that ECW thing going for them too, where it's a smaller audience, but a much bigger percentage of their audience is willing to pay and is more loyal. Like if you compare WWE pay-per-views that we're doing in the 100 and 120,000 range, like AEW does now, their viewership was much fucking higher than 1 million viewers. Like AEW gets a lot out of their viewership, a lot of conversion, like into paying customers in one way or another. So I think that bodes well for them too. And they have pay-per-view numbers to be able to back that up.
Yep.
Like, hey, right. we can get 100,000 people to pay fucking $50 for this thing one time. Like, why are they not going to subscribe to your fucking service for $15 a month, and they'll have access to this and all of them? Like, that seems like a pretty good sell.
Yep, absolutely. The thing that I thought was interesting is, as somebody who tried to run a wrestling promotion once, to find out that AEW is getting $40 to $45 million from Warner to produce professional wrestling is like, I couldn't even imagine having a budget that would to have that kind of budget. By the way, Too Tough Tony in the house. Too Tough Tony, thank you very much. She says they're making the same mistakes as WCW did. Yeah, a lot of the similar mistakes. So yes, but thank you for tuning in, my man. Appreciate it. So yeah, we're gonna move along, and this is actually Tony. This
is AEW is?
What's that?
Getting 40 the same mistakes as WCW?
Too Tough Tony is saying.
I don't think so. I think WCW is like one of the worst businesses run in the history of businesses. Like that's why I think that's what I'm saying. Like I think there's things. Listen, they make missteps 110%. Like I'm not disagreeing with that, but it's like, let's just keep it.
They're still learning.
Yeah, and it's not, and they're not catastrophic missteps. Look, This is kind of ties in with what I had wanted to talk about when I said because Wrestling Mecca, they have their discussions over there that I've been in, and I got to be honest, as somebody who rants regularly about wrestling, I don't get the people that root for fucking like WWE or AEW to fucking fail. Like, if it's not your thing, just fucking find something else, man. Like, it is not our thing. It is like me and Ben and Joe probably, from what I've gotten to know too, this is not like our regular viewing pattern. Like Ben will tell you, I'm messaging him in 2:30 in the morning about like fucking USWA Texas from 1990 and shit. Like I'm fucking texting about Eric Embry. Like I'm not texting about fucking Young Bucks 6-star matches with fucking 400 flips and shit. Like, but I can find something else to watch. There's so much shit out there. Like if it's not your thing, or do what I do, which I highly advise for anybody, because I enjoy being a wrestling fan this way. I peek in and out on WWE. I peek in and out on AEW. I see shit that I hear I need to see. I'll peek in a little bit otherwise, because honestly, when you don't watch a lot of WWE pay-per-views and you go watch one of their pay-per-views, it's really fucking good. If you haven't seen the matches, like run into the ground on weekly TV, they're really fucking good. So just don't overexpose yourself to 250 hours of one, like Ben and I, we like Ozark. I don't want to watch 250 hours a week of fucking Ozark though. So move around. Japan, Mexico, see shit you've never seen before. Oh, I don't want to see that shit. How do you know? Go watch it. There's so much wrestling out there. You can find something that you like. And if you can't and you still feel like you need to shit on everything, maybe you're not a wrestling fan.
Yeah, I agree with you. Moving along, because I got to move this show along, and because we're already an hour and 10 minutes in. And thank you again, Tony, for participating in the chat.
Wait. Let's interact with our audience here because Tony's making some points. So let's address these because I would like.
Yeah, he says that they're wasting money on people that WWE let go. They were doing good on their own, and people want to see the up and coming talent.
Nobody does, Tony. God bless you if you do, and there's more people out there like you. But as a whole, what did the big ratings? Punk coming back, Bryan Danielson coming back. Those did the big ratings. They were bigger ratings than the up and comers were doing before that show. Like that's a hardcore fan base that wants to see that, and it's very small. It's very loud, so we confuse how small it is. Because like they're so vocal that we think it's bigger than it is, and we're all like people like us that are constantly talking about this stuff. Then like we think it's bigger than it is, but that's what draws and it pisses us off as like hardcore wrestling fans sometimes because it's not really what we want to see. But the stars draw. Push your stars, and then you can make guys into stars. But you got to push your stars. But I mean, what do you guys think on that too? Because I've said a lot about that.
Joe, you got thoughts?
I mean, I similar to Michael. I don't think they're wasting money. I think they've spent much of it very properly. I mean, I would have signed up most of the guys probably that they signed in so far. I think what we said earlier is they probably should have.
A big Christian guy, I know.
Yeah, I do not. Maybe not Christian. But Punk and Danielson, I think were no-brainers. I mean, if you get the opportunity to bring back a star as big as CM Punk, you do that. You pull the trigger on that, and maybe they should have pulled the trigger on making him more important or utilizing him. Because listen, him and Danielson are both over 40, and they're not young, so that you have to. I know in modern day wrestling, 40 is the new 30, but you have a limited time on these guys. So if you don't use them properly now, it's going to be, you're going to use them up or not, or going to miss that window where they could make a difference for you. There's been other companies that have spent, this is not TNA bringing in like Kevin Nash and stuff like that. That's different.
A waste. Yeah.
That's a waste.
And
pushing guys like that. Like this is different. This is, they've made missteps, but again, like I said, they're learning and they're figuring it out. Tony Khan is not Vince McMahon. Tony Khan is not a lot of, other bookers that have gone through, that have been in wrestling over the last couple of years. So he's going to make mistakes. They to come back from the death match where it was like the fart explosion at the end and survive that. I mean, they're going to fuck up. So
Yeah. I mean, and now that's so long gone that that even happened. It's so out of the realm of people's thinking.
I think they're catering to their audience. I mean, they're catering like it feels like the ECW. It feels like an ECW audience, but they're drawing more people and they're a little more loyal. It's just a broader base, and they're touring more. Yeah. They're trying to take that hardcore fan and then take it around the country instead of staying in one place and being more mainstream and catering to the quote unquote indie fan. But yeah, I listen. Like Mike said, the more wrestling, the better. Like just the more places there are for guys to work, great. The more places there are places for the guys to make money, cool, and enjoy.
Yep. And I don't get the complaint. I mean, the old WWE guys thing. If it was like Braun Strowman and Ryback, like I get it. But Punk and Bryan, like these are the guys that are like. They
fit their style.
Yeah, they started there. They started with all these guys. They worked PWG. They worked ROH. Like these guys are part of the reason that they're there. You know, some of these guys is like they're very much friendly with all the people in the company there. Like these guys can go. So I mean, you know, it's not the same thing. Like I think if you got stars and they can go and they fit your style and they do promos that are good, man, you got to fucking run with those guys, man. Like Adam Page is cool and all, and God bless him, but Adam Page isn't getting on Kimmel or anything like that. Like, and shit like that matters. Like, you know, AEW World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk, who's on to promote fucking heels on whatever talk show, like that shit like that matters. Like it's cachet, and it makes TV companies want to pay you more and do business with you. That's why WWE gets so much money. They're not doing fucking, you know, 10 times the ratings of AEW. It's that they have media cachet and they're known as wrestling. Like AEW needs to get more of that cachet, and you do that with stars. Like you can't do that with young guys. You got to build those guys first and get your company, you know, over first to a wide audience.
Yep. I agree with you totally. And that takes us to our next point, which is AEW has been pretty liberal with the blood and using blood in matches. And there's been a thought of, and WWE WWE literally put out a statement saying, this is not what people want. You'll not see this on our programming. You know, it's terrible that women were bleeding and, you know, blah, blah, blah. We talked about it about a month and a half, 2 months ago. Tony Khan was asked about it on a recent podcast or a media scrum about whether or not he has heard any feedback from advertisers or higher ups or business partners, and asked about the amount of blood that's being used. He says it's certainly not every week. You don't see it on a weekly basis, although it is almost every week. They use blood pretty liberally. Occasionally there are big matches, and it's only when the circumstance is such that it is a big street fight or these big crazy matches or fights ahead of a pay-per-view where things have gotten crazy and there has been a big melee.
Ahead of a pay-per-view.
Weird, right? For
That's not how that used to work.
Yeah. For the most part, kind of focus on the wrestling, the best interviews, the most exciting wrestlers, a lot of high flyers, technical wrestling, a lot of crazy brawling too. For the most part, when you see a focus on the in-ring action, but every once in a while, when things have gotten out of hand, it's been old school pro wrestling in a way that has been very healthy and has been well received by our media partners and fans. It's almost been universally praised, and when it hasn't, overall, we've done well on the aggregate, and most of the focus is on wrestling and not the brawling. But you see some of the old school brawling too, and that's part of pro wrestling, and that's what makes it fun.
Well, we know Ben's reaction is an erection, so Ben's covered.
I got a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I got a half heart there because I do love blood in professional wrestling, right? I think it adds an element when done right.
Yeah,
escalates it to another level. And matches on the flip side are hurt by the lack of blood because it takes you out of the reality of this is two people fighting each other when they're supposed to be so intense. So for me, I really dig it. And AEW has done a decent job, although I do think that they're teetering on doing it too much, but I do appreciate it.
If you have a cage match without blood, don't waste my time.
Exactly. I don't know why such a thing exists. A cage match without blood is an entire waste of my fucking however many minutes that match is.
Yeah, WWE's figured out some decent things to do in those types of matches without blood, but overall, yeah. I mean, I pretty much agree with that. I mean, I agree with everything. Listen, if his broadcast partners and sponsors are okay with it, go to fucking town, man. I mean, I think that's the goal here, is to be different. So if he's being different in that way, there's nothing wrong with that. When WWE released this statement, did they say self-mutilation or Ted Turner's WCW? Did they mention that? Because I was wondering if this was the same press release from fucking 95.
They did use self-mutilation again.
Oh my God, he's consistent. I love it. They just fucking copy and pasted the memo they sent to CBS.
You had the same conversation when we talked about it a couple of months ago. That you marked out that it was.
That's right. I love it.
Yeah. Which leads us then to our retro review for the week. We talked about it last week. Joe had been reading that cool book, The Way of the Blade, and picked 3 random matches out of the book that we would watch and retro review. And so that's a perfect lead in talking about blood and matches. We go to these bloody matches. The first one on the docket is Stan Hansen versus Carlos Colon from WWC in Puerto Rico in 1984. And I fucking love this match. I love it. And there's everything about it from Hanson. Hanson is so fucking good. I'm sorry. I just love Stan Hansen. I love his presence. When he's walking in the ring, he scares everybody. And then his
top 10 all time. If possibly top 5 on my list, but easy top 10 without even having to think about it. Like when we have that, is who's better than Triple H? Like, I'm fucking sorry. The only way that Triple H is better than Stan Hansen is if your response is, I just haven't seen enough Stan Hansen. That's the only fucking way, man. Because Stan Hansen, he's over everywhere he's ever been. He's good everywhere he's ever been. Japan, every fucking territory in the United States. Yeah, everywhere. Everywhere he's drawn fucking money. He's had great matches. He was just incredible. And the thing about this match is that Carlos Colon is not very good. And the match itself is not technically great, but they tell such a great, simple story of him trying to go for that figure 4 and not being able to get it. And Stan Hansen, the big, believable, tough guy, badass that he is playing like a great chicken shit heel, trying to escape with his life through the fucking cage as he's getting beat on and bloody to fucking death. This shit was excellent, man. It's so good in its simplicity. Like, you don't have to do a lot to get over if you know how to work.
Yep.
Ben, the book is, again, Way of the Blade by Phil Schneider, and I highly recommend. I'll read the bit. He breaks down each of the matches to like the context of like what was going on, who the 2 combatants are, and then breaks down kind of, the feud and what led up to this. And then the collision is like the next section. And here I'll just read the beginning of the collision part. So the match was the blow off of the war these 2 had been waging for almost 6 months. It's a cage match in a baseball stadium, and the lack of seats on the ground really makes it look like a Roman gladiator fight. Hansen had dominated the early matches in the series, but Colon began to figure him out the more they wrestled. Hansen traditionally overwhelms people when he wrestles, but Colon met him as they entered and the ring and swarmed the swarmer. So there you go. So that's just there's a little tidbit from it, but he goes on.
And that's good. That leads me right to my point, which is what I loved about this match is the way that they started it out. And that's great. And that knowing that even adds more of it, because what I thought was awesome was Stan Hansen was selling his ass off for Carlos Colon.
Yep.
Bumping and selling. And like, it was like
chicken shit heel.
Yeah. It was like Giant Baba was hitting him. You know what I mean? Like, where every punch Carlos landed was the biggest punch Stan Hansen had ever taken. He was awesome, and in a different way. And like you said, Carlos Colon is nothing special. He really isn't.
He's not very good.
Fucking loves him. The crowd made this match excellent as well. And then the match breaks down, and there's a bunch of run-ins, and there's guys bleeding all over the place from the run-ins.
Fucking run-ins are bleeding on the floor. You got the Young Bloods out there and Chicky Star. That was what set this feud up, was Chicky Star had brought in Stan Hansen into Puerto Rico to feud with Colon. And yeah, they had about 6 months worth of matches, bull rope matches, all that shit. This was the blow-off. But Chicky Star, by the way, guys that never get talked about, was a Puerto Rico mainstay. If you want to see some fun, bloody, good shit.
Is that the guy on the crutches?
Chicky Star? I don't remember if he was on crutches in this or not. But
he was one of the guys. Who's the guy on the crutches that was managing Stan Hansen?
It might have been Chicky Star. I don't remember. But Chicky Star is one of the great, like, sleazebag looking pro wrestlers of all time. Great heel. Bled all over the place, just so fucking fun in WWE.
He's the Bobby Heenan to Carlos Colon's Hulk Hogan, essentially.
In this case, yes. In this case. But he did a lot of shit. So, yeah, he was very good.
I think it was Invader bleeding in the outside brawl more than either of the guys in the matches, it seemed like.
Yeah, we don't talk about Invader. Yeah. or his bloody knife.
There you go.
So that match, very fun. I guess I don't need to ask because I wanted to ask you, but I'm fairly certain now that you gave your opinion on him. Carlos Colon, not better than Triple H.
No. Let's not be unreasonable.
All right. That moves us to our next match, and Joe, I'll allow you to introduce this match and why you picked it, and maybe read from the book. I kind of got ahead of myself. I think it's kind of cool to read from the book and then talk about it.
Stall for time because I forgot to bookmark that, so I have to find it. So hold on one second.
I don't even know how to properly pronounce these dudes' names.
Yuki Ishikawa is one of them, and Mike, I know you can say the other guy's name.
Daisuke Ikeda.
There you go.
Okay, and this is for like a promotion called like Venus or something. It was like some random Japanese.
Yeah, they were like an offshoot kind of sister promotion
Futen,
of Battle.
it says in the book.
Yeah, Futen. Yeah, they're a like a kind of an offshoot promotion of Battle Arts. I used to work with Battle Arts, so it's kind of a Battle Arts style.
This match is from 2005, and it is different, very different than Stan Hansen and Carlos Colon, right?
It's fucking incredible.
But it is incredible. It is that shoot style, that Pancrase-esque kind of style that is very different, very hard hitting, very stiff, and it makes the match. It makes the book because dude gets busted open hard way and is just pouring blood out of his mouth. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, Ishikawa. Yeah, you can see the fucking blood dripping to the mat.
I'll give you the context to kind of give you the background. So Yuki Ishikawa and Daisuke Ikeda were both trainees of Yoshiaki Fujiwara and began their careers at Pro Wrestling Fujiwara Gumi. Together, they formed Battle Arts when PWFG stopped running on as a regular promotion. They took the shoot style elements they learned from Fujiwara, ramped up the violence, and added a little more flash, and developed one of the greatest under-the-radar promotions in wrestling history. Ikeda left Battle Arts to form his own promotion Futen, which took away some of the earlier flash and really ramped up the violence. Futen had a short run, much of which either was untapped or unavailable, but this is my single favorite wrestling promotion ever. While the violence is ungodly, it usually didn't have much blood. I had to stretch my own definition a bit to get this match on the list, but it was well worth it. Very well said, Phil Schneider.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it in the book. Because I was wondering, because it is kind of on the fringes of what that book is all about. But now I get why. Like, he's just a super fan of the promotion. I was like, I'm gonna horseshoe this shit in if I have to.
Well, that was, but I think Joe's right in the way he described it in the chat though too. It's a blood sport style match. Like, that's kind of why it's in there too. And I kind of appreciate it in there for, that being a little bit different. Listen, this fucking match, you can hear the fucking body shots. I mean, it is fucking intense. And I also, the wrestling itself, the catch wrestling is top notch. I mean, and yes, both these motherfuckers are better than Triple H. All due respect to it. But and they are. I mean, look, I've seen Ishikawa and Ikeda do it in a lot of different promotions in a lot of ways. And Phil Schneider's right. Battle Arts, if you haven't seen any, Battle Arts is fucking tremendous. Like, if you think that you like hard hitting, wrestling and a little bit more technicality in your shit, check out some Battle Arts. It's definitely out there on YouTube. It's fucking really good. It was a really good indie promotion for Japan.
Briefly here, the end part with the collision has some very good bits in it. This was their first singles match against each other in over 6 years, and saw both guys a little past their physical primes. Because of their bit of their technical and athletic skill had eroded, they had to rely more on force and violence. That's true. This was wrestling's Thrilla in Manila, a pair of guys with too many miles on their tires who had to fall back on their will and grim determination. To go on, this is one of the things that separated this from much of the super stiff current Japanese wrestling was that these weren't two guys shrugging off shots to prove how tough they are. Every shot sold like it took a little piece of their will and soul. Near the end of the match, Ishikawa was drooling blood out of his mouth like he had a root canal and deadlifting Ikeda and dropping him on his neck anyway. It makes you question what exactly you're spending your time watching. It felt like the final crossface chicken wing submission was a merciful ending for both of them. This match had no winners, just survivors.
Great way. So well written to describe that match.
Yeah, shout out Phil Schneider. I met Phil Schneider at APW show when he was living out here in the Bay Area, man. I've read Phil Schneider stuff off and on for years.
I'd love to have him on the show, pick his brain.
Oh, so say his blog is Segunda Caída. He does a pro wrestling blog over there where he talks about matches. He's a tremendous writer of pro wrestling, and I don't give a fuck how much pro wrestling you've seen, myself included. You have not seen as much fucking pro wrestling as Phil Schneider. I fucking promise.
Yeah.
I'd love to get him on. We should try to reach out to him. That
And Yuki Ishikawa, Mike, I know you wanted to ask me. Yes.
Yes.
You had some personal interaction with him. You actually have had some personal time with him, right?
I did in my many martial arts travels, and to show you what wrestling nerd I am. Part of the reason why I picked to go to my bachelor party a few years ago is I'm not a strip club guy, obviously, or to go get hammered and get drunk for my bachelor party. I had a choice of Toronto and Montreal. It was like, let's go to Canada. And picked Toronto because at the time, Santino Morella's school is up there, and he had Yuki Ishikawa teaching catch wrestling and pro wrestling there. And I was like, well, I have to. And I'm not one. If I'm going that far, I just don't want to take a class. Like, I'm taking a private with that guy, and I wanted to have one-on-one. And the guy, I sent you guys a video of him like demonstrating a move on someone. That was just like another one of the students who had happened to like wander in to work out that day, and he was like, hey, come over, I can like show, I need to show moves to this guy on you. And the guy was more than accommodating and super nice. But yeah, he spoke great English, showed me a bunch of cool flows. It was an honor to train with him. It was his last day. He was actually leaving, and I think he stayed because he had committed to the private to me a few months before. And it was fantastic. I mean, you could feel like he had some miles on him, but he was very snug when he held stuff, and super nice guy. It was super pleasure to train with him. So
that's so cool. That's such a cool story, man. Be able to do that and get a chance to one-on-one work out.
Wrestling martial arts, jiu-jitsu especially, is very unique in that like you can train with pretty much anybody. Like if you work hard enough or find, you got to do some research or do where they're at. But like I can't go take a basketball lesson from LeBron James, but like I could get most of the Gracies at some point or another for a private lesson here or there,
right?
For the right price,
right. Absolutely.
My cousin took one from Michael Jordan, and he bullied him and pantsed him. That's a true story, by the way. So. Yeah.
That's when I took it personally.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael Jordan.
Yeah, they worked with Rod Higgins for about fucking 4 days at this Michael Jordan basketball camp, and then Michael Jordan comes in and pretty much humiliates everyone on the final day, and that's your Michael Jordan basketball camp. So.
Cool. I got to move this along. So, all right, our final match that we watched for the retro review this week was from 1984 World Class Championship.
Yes.
Killer Khan taking on Terry Gordy.
Yes.
Texas death match. And Joe sent me a text message privately and said, you're going to love Killer Khan and Terry Gordy. And the man knows me. And because I fucking love this match. Like, as much as I loved Carlos Colon and Stan Hansen, this match brings all the fucking blood. So I want to see what Phil Schneider. I'm curious what Phil Schneider had to say. I don't know if you need a second to find that one.
I found it. Let me find it. Oh, I know the good bit that I want to get to. Okay, here we go. The collision. This is the best part of it. This is a pair of big boys pounding on each other with a crowd rabid to see it. Gordy opened it up early when Khan smashed his head against the ring post. Khan enthusiastically chewed on the wound, leading Gordy's head to start dripping plasma. Khan grabbed the first fall with a big knee drop, but Gordy fired back with a big wild right hand and returned the favor, smashing Khan to the ring post. Khan just started squirting blood, leaving red puddles all around the ring like the aftermath of a ketchup rainstorm.
Yes, it was awesome. His bald head. It's so cool because you don't see it very often. I think that's what had me marking out so hard was he bladed the top of his head, right? And it was fucking gushing. And because he has no hair, there was nothing to stop the blood, and it was everywhere. If he laid on the mat for a second, there was a puddle of fucking blood. It was awesome. And again, there's nothing it was a lot of punches and kicks for 18 minutes, but
Pretty
I
much.
didn't catch it.
No, it's a brawl, and it was a good Texas fucking wild brawl. This is what you got from Killer Khan in this era too. Excalibur once said on a PWG show that friend of the show Apollo Khan, who is a black man, that he was the nephew of Killer Khan. So that was yeah.
And has a iconic moment at the end of the match where Gordy shakes hands with Kerry Von Erich, and the crowd goes crazy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, this is when we get them together before they break apart again. And
Again.
there's something we're gonna have to do world class wise, because like I know you haven't seen a lot of world class Ben, and I don't think people realize how, and all that shit is up there on the network, like virtually every episode from almost start to when they sell to Jarrett. But I mean, their show, first of all, like everybody, oh, Nitro changed the game. No. World Class Wrestling was doing non-jobber match shows back then. I mean, they're not doing a lot of jobber matches in 83, 84, in their real up periods. The production is top notch. It's probably better than WWF or Crockett or any of that stuff at the same time. There's a lot of guys with bodies that look good there cosmetically. There's some good workers there too. Kerry Von Erich, I always thought, especially before he lost the foot, was like super underrated because he was a really good athletic worker. And even when he lost the foot, the shit he did on one foot was pretty fucking amazing too, man. I mean, it's got to be hard to wrestle with a fucking prosthetic. So, I mean, there's a lot of good shit in world class that not enough people talk about for sure.
I was here's my quick world class story is I didn't have cable as a kid in my house, but I would go visit my grandma in the summertime for a few weeks, and she had cable and had ESPN, and I was too young to realize like, oh, if I look in the TV guide I could find the wrestling. All I knew is it came on ESPN and it would come on in the afternoon at some point, but I would see world class and I would look forward to it, and then every year I would come back, it would be like, oh, another Von Erich died. I'm like, oh man, they keep dying.
And they ran another show to
it would be another memorial. They have another memorial,
and then when one didn't die, Fritz faked a heart attack to really tug at the heartstrings.
Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, there's been a lot of piece of shits in pro wrestling, and a lot of them are discussed often. But if you really want to see how much of a piece of shit Fritz Von Erich was, watch Mike Von Erich promos when he comes back, when he almost dies with like the 105-degree fever and had the toxic shock syndrome. He is like out on his feet, nobody home, no condition to be wrestling in a ring or standing there doing an interview, anything. His eyes are slightly crossed. Like, Fritz was a real fucking piece of shit when it came to his sons, man. Real piece of shit.
I mean, the story, if you haven't heard it, the WWE did a great DVD on them, obviously, and it's a tragic story. And it's funny because I live here in Lubbock. Lubbock was a big world-class town. It was a regular on the loop. It was a regular stop. Like, there's a number of references of stories on that DVD of things that happened in Lubbock, like the story that who's the one that's still alive? Kevin,
yeah.
The story he tells on that DVD is that he was in Lubbock for a show and was really depressed and went to a gun shop here in town with the intent of buying a gun to kill himself. And the guy behind the counter knew who he was and was marking out to him and basically changed his mind to not kill himself. And that's he tells that story. So Lubbock is this is a big world class area. People still talk about the Von Erichs and the Funks between Amarillo and world class. Wrestling has a deep history here in this part.
Well, Kevin was the only one that died in the ring because Kevin died too, but they brought him back. I forgot who resuscitated him, but it was at a house show. God damn, I want to say maybe Brian Adias. I almost said Michael Hayes, but that sounds like way too much of like a responsible thing for like 1980s Michael Hayes to pull off, like CPR.
I would have let him die.
Yeah, exactly. Like fucking puff pass. Is that what I do here? Like, he probably had no fucking idea. But yeah,
He's too busy liberally using the N-word.
No, Kevin. A lot of people think Kevin was more messed up on stuff than any of them. He just got the luckiest because he was really fucked up. He accidentally backed over one of his kids in a driveway when they were like 4 years old. Like Kevin had a lot of issues. So
yeah. All right, so there you go. That's the retro review for this week. Looking ahead to next week, we've decided the retro review is going to be another monumental show in the history of pro wrestling. And Michael, you're the one that picked this one out. I'm gonna turn this over to you to describe what we're going to be watching for next week's retro review.
yeah, we're going to talk about a couple things. There are some matches from the 1950s that we're going to post some links of just to throw out there so that people can see that we wanted to talk about, just because it's very interesting stuff for people to see. The quality is outstanding too, so don't worry about that. This is not like rabbit ears television or anything like that, but just some kind of cool stuff from the past. But we are going to talk about the biggest and most watched match in pro wrestling history, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, from the main event, not Saturday night's main event, but the main event, February 5th, 1988, seen by 33 million people. Yes.
Let's digest that. Like, we were just talking about AEW having 1 million viewers consistently a week. This one match on network television drew 33 million motherfucking people
On a Friday night, too.
on a
Friday night.
Don't tell me Andre and Hogan are not the biggest draw in the history of the business. Sorry.
My mom watched this fucking match, okay? I remember that. Like, my mom felt compelled to watch this wrestling match to see who would win or lose. Like, this was...
Is that hyperbole? Maybe we can do it next week. Is it hyperbole to say that Andre and Hogan are the best drawing? I mean, they're the biggest main event ever. I don't know how to
argue,
but like,
it depends. Not money wise. That's the thing. That rating didn't. I mean, it didn't bring in revenue. They did a lot of revenue for WrestleMania 3, but they didn't have a lot of big enough matches. Keep in mind, pay-per-view is not what it was at that time. So, like, Austin Rock, for what they did on pay-per-view alone, like, they made millions and millions of dollars just in one night. I mean, not even like, house shows or anything like that. Like, they had kind of different opportunities. But I mean, 33 million from a viewership perspective. If you put Austin Rock on in their peak on fucking NBC on Friday night at 8:00, they weren't touching fucking 33 million people.
Right.
So from a casual interest standpoint, yeah, I mean, it's just in a whole different atmosphere at this point.
Right on. All right, guys. Well, until next week, this has been the Now and Then Wrestling Show, and we'll see you next week.